Steve Cortes is with us, America First Action PAC. Now, what's the politics of this, Steve? I mean, you're on the political side of things. I know you're a market watcher as well. Give me the politics here.
Look, I think the political reality is this, that the United States, there's a lot of unknowns ahead. There's clearly challenges ahead economically, but the United States enters this crisis in a position of incredible strength. We know that from the jobs report we just got this morning, and we're in that position of strength because of the Trump boom, because of the policies of President Trump. And so we enter this, particularly compared to the rest of the world, with an economy that is ready to handle this challenge, with the expertise and the will to take this on. So I'm very glad that the U.S., particularly compared to the rest of the world, has the economic momentum coming into this crisis to handle it.
Okay, we have Brian Bremberg with us as well. You're a professor of economics, I do declare. Is that right?
You declare it. That's right.
We've been saying all morning we've got a real strong cushion with this economy. Lower gas prices, mortgage refi boom, here it comes. Very strong jobs report for January and February. Is that a strong enough cushion for us to carry us through without a recession, even though you don't know the full impact of the virus?
Look, you don't know, but that is about as good a cushion as you can get. It wasn't just January and February. It was also a revision up in December. Wages are still strong. The question, Stuart, is what does this mean for potential bounce back? We don't know the answer to the question, when will we get this contained? But when we do, when confidence is restored, how ready is this economy to move back up? These kinds of job numbers suggest the economy is ready to move back up. There's a lot of confidence coming into this situation.
Do you think that the Federal Reserve or the administration should be pumping money into the economy, either by tax cuts or just liquidity, shoving it in? Would that be a good thing?
I am always in favor of looking at the tax code again and finding ways to make it more effective, make business investment more attractive. I don't think the Fed has a lot of power here. We saw them cut this week and the market shrugged it off. Money supply doesn't seem to be the issue, but some stimulus on the tax side could be very powerful. Again, the point is, how do you get businesses reinvesting when this goes away? Everything that you can throw at that is helpful.
Okay, let me recap again. First of all, can you show me, please, the yield on the 10-year Treasury? I did notice that as it slipped back down into near historic record low territory, that would have been 0.69%. Oh, look at that. We're at 0.67%. Now, this is the ultimate anxiety indicator. This tells you that money from all around the world, probably by the trillion of dollars, trillions, plural, of dollars, pouring into our Treasury bonds, pushing up the price, and the yield comes down. That is an historic low, 0.67%. And as that yield came down, so too did the stock market, because you've got money going into Treasuries and out of stocks. Right now, I think we're down 824 points on the Dow Industrials. That's better than 3%. In fact, you've got a better than 3% loss on the Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ Composite. While I got you here, that's a real anxiety indicator. 0.67%?
Yeah, well, look, there's so much uncertainty here, especially around, and you said it earlier, the question is how quickly do you get it contained and how quickly do people feel confident about that. This is a psychological issue. That number is the psychology of the market right now. They want data, not headlines. What they're getting right now is headlines.
Okay, I'm going to go round the block for all the experts that we've assembled on this program to go through this. And my question is simple. What signs, what positive signs should we be looking for? What will be the signal that we are close to a bottom for this stock market? First of all, Greg Valliere, please.
Well, you reduce the number of new infections, and it looks like in Wuhan, it's starting to level off. If you see this leveling off start to take hold around the globe, that's the signal.
Scott Shellady, what's the signal that we're close to a bottom for the market?
I totally agree with Greg. It's not going to be economic. Number of new cases and the number of people that are getting over it and getting healthier, and they're out there speaking about what their symptoms were. When people see that it's not the boogeyman they think it is, that's the bottom.
Paul Conway, what to you is the signal that the economy is bottoming out? I mean, look, it's expanding right now, but what's the signal that we're at the bottom?
I think the best signal for this, Stuart, quite honestly, is you have the president on television, you have the scientists on television, and people are consuming the information, and they consume the information about the impacts of the virus on the most at-risk population, because good governance will equal good politics, will restore confidence. That's kind of the bottom line here.
On a day when we have a sea of red, that means everything's down, I'm going to go to the New York Stock Exchange and Christina Parts-Neveles, who I think may have a couple of bright spots. What do you have?
Yes, I do, Stu. That's what I was looking for this morning for you so that we could take a break from the doom and gloom. Let's start with Enzo Biochem. Chem, you're seeing it on your screen right now. $3, so it's a cheap stock, but it's up 34.5% right now. And that is because as of next week, they are going to be testing a new COVID-19. They have released a new test, more specifically at the molecular level. So they're going to be working on that next week. They just announced it, hence the reason why you're seeing this upswing in the stock price. And then another bright spot for you is Neuronetics. Right now, they are up quite a bit, up 14.5%. This has nothing to do with the coronavirus. This has to do with the device that they're working on to help with bipolar depression. Okay. In 2008, they were working on the treatment with for any adults that didn't react to drugs. This is another device that could possibly help with bipolar depression. And I want to end on this little nugget. GE missed out big time on this upswing because GE sold over 800,000 shares in Q4. They were investing in Neuronetics, but they sold a huge portion of their shares. So they're missing out on this upswing right now. Those are your two bright spots.
That's a nugget and a tough one at that for GE. All right, thanks, Christina. Now, a moment ago, I saw the price of oil dropping to $43 a barrel. Yep. Yes, it is down there. 42 right now. Oh, ouch.
This is it was at a 6.4% slide. They had that meeting in Vienna. OPEC producers, they wanted to cut production. Russia said no, and now oil is extending the losses on that news. It's also a demand issue. If we and this weekend will be key, how nervous people are. If we're nervous at all, do we stay home and hunker down, or do we go in the car and fill up the gas tank and go to the movie theater and the shopping mall? So oil is reflecting that.
$42 a barrel. The downside there is that American drillers don't make a profit if you're only getting $42 for your barrel of oil, and you don't drill so much, and that's what's happening there. All right, Steve Cortes still with us. I understand that Mr. Trump will visit the CDC as originally planned, and that's today, I think, right, Steve?
I'm very glad to hear that because I think, look, he is now a wartime president. That is just the reality. And the enemy is not some invading army. It's a virus on one hand. He has to do everything he can, including visits like this to the CDC on that front. But then there's also the intangible part, which is so important. The other enemy is fear. He needs to convince Americans, like a good wartime president, that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. He needs to be reassuring. He needs to be the cheerleader in chief for America. I think he's done a very good job of that so far, but I think he needs to even accelerate it going forward. The more we see him, the more we hear from him, the more reassuring he can be and his team can be, the more we then defeat that enemy of fear, because it is a wartime footing right now.
Yeah, it sure is. Jonathan Hoenig, back to you. I know that you're a fan of gold. You've been recommending to buy it for some time, but I don't understand why it hasn't really zoomed. I mean, in times of crisis, it goes straight up. But right now, it's still, what, about under $1,700 an ounce? What gives?
Yeah, interestingly, a lot of the gold stocks today, precious metal is up today, but a lot of the gold stocks are down. I mean, these are big moves, Stuart. The big moves take time. And, you know, a lot of analysts are calling for an all-time high at gold. They would put up at least a couple $100 higher from this point. And, you know, what I can tell you, the history of gold from, say, 2000 to 2012, it went up every single year. And there was innumerable news headlines over that period. There was the wars and the terror threat levels, etc., election jitters. So the big moves take time, and there's a lot of news headlines over those big moves. Gold isn't up today, but I still think long-term you're going to see prices significantly higher, even if the virus, or I should say, when the virus does get resolved.
Scott Shellady, as a long-time trader, would you want to hold stocks over this coming weekend when you haven't got a clue what kind of virus headlines are going to greet you come Monday morning?
Well, I'm starting to see things that have been normally higher, like you mentioned Clorox earlier in the show. When you start to see those things get washed out when they had been doing okay because of the virus, you got to start to think we're starting to get close to the bottom here. But at the end of the day, you've asked everybody on the panel, Stuart, what they think would be the end or how we would tell. And not really one of us has said it's going to be a monetary issue, more interest rates cuts or targeted company bailouts. We've all said it's a psychological issue. It's all about the virus. And I agree with Steve Cortes. Yep. The president's in the middle of that war now, and being out in front of it is going to be the thing that really stops the slide.
Greg Valliere, are you seeing any signs of a washout?
No, and to make a quick comment, Stuart, as you well know, the people of London in 1941 and 42 had a stiff upper lip. They acted with great bravery. What would they think now if somebody in America said, well, I'm not going to go to the movies because my uncle was in Seattle? I mean, we got to toughen up on this.
Yeah. Do you think we're panicked, Greg? Do you think
Yeah,
we're...
yeah.
Lauren, what you got?
There's two. Speaking of the panic, I have young children, and I'm constantly getting emails from their gyms and play groups saying what they're doing to disinfect. There are two schools, private schools in Manhattan, that are closed. And there's also one in Paramus, New Jersey, that is closed because either they have to disinfect the school or because there was some basketball meet, and at that meet, there was someone who might have been infected. So there is, I hesitate to use the word panic, but there's precaution out there, and it's pretty heavy.
Okay. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing this weekend. Actually, what I'm doing tomorrow, I live in the state of New Jersey. I'm going to go to 2 grocery stores that I know in the state of New Jersey. I'm going to a shopping mall in the state of New Jersey. And I'm going to New York State to what's called Woodbury Commons. It's an outlet mall which usually attracts tens of thousands of people from Europe and Asia because the prices are so cheap. I'm going to do my own little tiny research there. What's foot traffic like in the weekend of the virus? Who's laughing there? Is that you, Jonathan?
No, I'm not laughing, but Stuart, we're going to be anxious to hear what the results of your analysis is. You know, so much of what goes on at the mall, we've talked about the cruise lines, the airlines, they've been killed. But this week I've also seen stocks like Macy's, like Kohl's. You know, Costco is basically the only retailer that is doing well in this environment. People are going to stock up on the hand sanitizers, etc. It does look as if that many Americans, or at least for the short term, are going to stay home from the malls. So we're going to be awaiting your analysis early Monday morning to see if they in fact are going out.
Why is everybody laughing at my mini research operation
There's a
tomorrow?
Golden Goose outlet there. Go for
Scott
it.
Scheller, you making fun of me?
No, I'm not making fun. It's a stiff up. That's that stiff upper lip that was mentioned earlier, right? Carry on and keep shopping, right? That's all it is. Carry on and keep shopping.
All right, everybody, here's the story. It is 10 o'clock Eastern time, and we're going to recap what's been happening this morning and in the last half hour with the market open. Look at this. It is down across the board. We've got a 3% drop almost now. Okay, down 692 on the Dow. That's what, 2.5%. You're down 2.8% on the S&P. The Nasdaq is down. I can't quite read it. Is that 2.75%? Yeah, something like that. We're down across the board. Earlier, 8:30 Eastern, we had what I'm going to call a blowout jobs report. 273,000 new jobs added in the month of February. That is what I'm calling a blowout. That is a very strong economy, but that report looks backwards. It looks back to February. It doesn't look forward to April, May and June when we're going to get the impact of the virus. White House's top economic guy, Larry Kudlow, he's going to be joining us moments from now. I want the very latest from him. Outside the stock market, the other dramatic move is this. A huge drop in the yield on the 10-year Treasury. It has hit historic lows. A few moments ago, we were down to 0.67%. Never seen that, never come close to that in all my time of doing this, and that's over 45 years. The price of gold, many investors see it as a flight to safety, and it's up $16 at $16.84. But that's not exactly a blowout. Let me backtrack a little. I want you to listen to what the president had to say about the jobs report. Roll it, please.
Well, job numbers just came out and they're incredible. The job numbers were tremendous, and we picked up close to 80,000 new jobs from last report. And if you add that up, it's over 350,000 jobs. Job numbers just came out a little while ago, and they were shocking to the people that were analyzing them.
All right, 2 minutes past 10. The market's still down. However, I'm not going to suggest we've hit a bottom. That would be a foolish thing to say. But we have not gone below an 800-point drop, OK? I think that's worth pointing out. I know we're only 32 minutes into the session, but we haven't gone that low. The low of the day was a minus 825, 830, I think it was. Brenberg, as in Brian, still with us. I want to get back to that jobs report. I don't want to diminish it. It was terrific.
Well, I just don't think it's been baked into the market. I don't think people quite know how to make sense of it because it's backward looking. But look, it's not just backward looking. When you have 3 months leading into this virus scare where jobs numbers are that strong, which means confidence is strong, that means something about our ability to come out of this. Markets are not paying attention to that because they're so focused on headlines around spread. But as they bake that in, I do think it starts to inspire confidence. 273,000 jobs in February. Revised up in January to that same number. Stuart, we are, 10 plus years into a recovery. Wow, that's a number we should not be seeing.
Okay, put your Wall Street hat on. Do you see any sign of a bottom for the stock market?
I think look, we've been bouncing around that 800 drop number. I think that is meaningful today. We haven't wanted to press past that. I do think part of that is some of the confidence of the jobs number. Investors are fighting between the fear and the possibility that we have a very, very strong economy. That's the battle you're going to see them going through in the coming days and weeks.
I just want to inject a little perspective here. The Dow Jones Industrial Average reached its all-time record high on February the 12th. That's 17 trading days ago. And that all-time high was 29,568. Look at us now, 25,438. So you've come down, I do the math, 4,000 points. Sounds like a lot, and it is. It's 11, maybe 12%, and it's a very rapid decline. But a little perspective. We're not in a bear market, not even close to a bear market at this point. You've got to go down another 2,500 points before you hit that bear market. Okay? Little perspective. What do you got?
I got more perspective. Today is the 11th anniversary of the bottom of the market.
That's right.
The bull market started 11 years ago today. Would any of us make the argument that the coronavirus kills the bull market 11 years in? Would anybody?
Any of us? That's a good question. Let me ask the folks here. Okay, Scott Shellady. Do you think that the virus kills the bull market, which has been running since March, whatever it was, in 2009?
That's a long expansion. I think the best I would say is it could stall the bull market. We're going to be with this until they start to see these cases go down. So it could stall, but I also know that with the jobs number, you're exactly right. That's a great example of how good the economy is. And just think of it, Stuart, that's the direct result of Trump tax cuts, less regulation, and a deal with China. That's the direct result. So we've got a great cushion. It just could stall things.
Okay, Steve Cortes, come in, please. Do you think that the virus kills the bull market?
Oh, gosh, no. Listen, I think things might get worse before they get better, but by no means is the bull market done. Not on Wall Street and not on Main Street. I also want to point out about a detail of the jobs report, which I think is critical. 42,000 construction jobs added. That's in addition to 49,000 construction jobs added the month before in January. That's fantastic news for the country because that means the very people that President Trump promised to deliver opportunity to, the strivers, the economic underdogs of America, a lot of them minorities, those people have been benefiting the most from the Trump boom. The Hispanic jobless rate, for example, Stuart, it now has been below 5% for 22 straight months under President Trump. Prior to President Trump, there had been 1 month ever with the Hispanic jobless rate below 5%. That was way back in 2006 during that housing boom. So that tells me that he is in good political shape domestically, that his policies will maintain into his second term because there will be a second term. But we have challenges ahead, and he has to be a wartime president right now, and he has to reassure the American people that we come into this situation, into this crisis, in a position of strength and that we can handle it because we're Americans.
Brian Bremberg, I think the president he will move heaven and earth to avoid a recession and even a slowdown as we head to the election. And that means I would not be at all surprised if they jacked in some money into various industries, lowered rates, and did everything they can.
And more importantly, I think people know that he would move heaven and earth. He is so committed to this economy. He's so committed to jobs and wages. That's the kind of thing over time that brings people back. They have a president who has their back on the economy.
Okay, Greg, is Greg Valliere still with us?
Yep.
Hey, Greg, thank you very much. I'm glad you're still here. Same question. I think the president will move heaven and earth to avoid a slowdown and certainly a recession, and that means he will do anything he possibly can, including putting money in the economy, urging the Fed to lower rates. It's a full court press to support this economy, isn't it?
Watch the trial balloon, Stuart, over the weekend. I think there are going to be a lot of things floated to goose the economy. One other quick point. How's this for an irony? This unemployment report was so strong this morning. Had it not been for the virus, I think we'd all be sitting around wondering, does the Fed have to raise rates by summer?
Good stuff, good stuff. Now, I want an update on the cruise lines. Specifically, news on Royal Caribbean, have we got it?
Yes, Royal Caribbean owns the Princess Cruises, which has had just problem after problem, whether it was the one that was docked off the coast of Japan or on our west coast. But they now are instituting this cruise with confidence policy. So if you are a guest and you have a cruise booked, basically, you get credit for your entire fare. You use it when you like. I mean, let's face it, this company had to do this to hold on to its business. They say it applies to new cruises. It applies to existing cruises. So whatever you want to do, they're just saying, we're going to give you your money. You choose when you use it.
That might have helped the cruise lines a little bit. On the left-hand side of the screen, Deirdre, there we have it. Royal Caribbean is now up a little. Norwegian is up a little. Carnival Cruise Lines is up a little, but still below $30 a share. But nonetheless, a minor leagues comeback. OK, the National Guard delivered medical kits to a cruise ship, and I think we got the video.
We got the video. It's stunning video. It comes from the California National Guard, and they're delivering in these white boxes the coronavirus test kits to the Grand Princess cruise ship. There's 3,500 people on that ship. About 100 are showing symptoms. They need to test them. They're not allowed to dock until everybody who needs to be tested is tested. The doctors on the ship will administer the test. They'll send them to the lab in California, and then we'll know something. But already they're making an effort to see who exactly has what.
Full court press. Get out there and do it. Can you show me the airlines, please? Because we're talking here about depressed and downtrodden industries. Apart from the cruise lines, nobody's suffered as much as the airlines. I got a report this morning from Lufthansa, the German airline. They have cancelled 7,000 flights. They're cutting back their capacity by 25%. They have to. Nobody's flying. What you got, Lauren?
The trade group says it would be a $113 billion hit to revenue for global airlines. That parallels what we saw during the financial crisis.
Also, a quick note, John Hilsenrath, our colleague from the Wall Street Journal, pointed out none of these airlines are firing people or laying people off, which is what we saw after September 11th. He mentioned that as a contextual point. Okay, fine, they're cutting capacity, they're cutting down flights. You do have some unions, pilot unions, who are refusing to fly into certain areas, but no one has been laid off.
I'm looking for bright signs. I'm looking for any possibility that we've got a bottom or approaching a bottom for the market. I see the airlines now moving up. Again, it's not a huge gain by any means. Delta's up, JetBlue up. But American, it's up. Look at that level, $16 per share. OK, what have we got? OK, more video of the National Guard delivering supplies. Have we got that? OK, there you go. Oh. Look, this is television. We like video. And when you're making an effort to get the tests out there to a cruise ship that's struggling with 100 possible...
And the reason why
that's California, a cruise ship full of people right there.
Yeah, and the reason why California declared a state of emergency yesterday, right? There was one passenger on one of these cruises who they think, it's not entirely clear, but who did catch the virus, who did pass away. I will mention, without minimizing her death, it was an older lady who did have an underlying heart problem.
Imagine being on that cruise ship, though, and then seeing the test kit come down from the sky, essentially, and then you have to go to the doctor there, and then you got to wait for the result. That's nervous.
On that story about test kits, we heard from HHS Secretary Alex Azar this morning. He was standing right behind the president as the president signed the virus funding bill. Alex Azar told us that he's shipped 700,000 test kits. That's this week. Next week, you get 4 million. So what I'm trying to get at here, I'm sorry, you got your hand up there. What I'm trying to get at is action is being taken. The president, in a calm demeanor, is reassuring everybody that something is being done. And he did say, we have plans for every single possibility. Not trying to put a floor under the market, but I'm trying to come out with the positives on this virus.
That's big news next week when you talk about that many test kits and how much more data that's going to give us on how prevalent this is. The downside of it potentially is people look at the increase in the number of cases and markets panic. But I actually think markets ought to look at that favorably. The more data we get on how fatal this is, the more markets can bake that in and they can actually react positively. So the more data, the better. That's what the test kits allow.
This is just coming into us now, a presidential tweet. I will read it for you. will protect your Social Security and Medicare, just as I have for the past 3 years. Sleepy Joe Biden will destroy both in very short order, and he won't even know he's doing it. Okay, now, that's the president changing the subject away from the virus and the market and the economy and turning to straightforward politics. That was the tweet that we just received. Recap the market, down 750 for the Dow. That's not quite the low of the day, but we haven't gone lower than a minus 820. So, and I'm not going to say we're coming back. I'm not going to say anything like that at all. No. It is a Friday. Remember that, please, because, you know, on a Friday, do you want to be holding stocks when you don't know what's going to happen come Monday morning? Scott Shellady, did I hear you rumbling away there?
Yeah, you know, this is like a bad George Orwell movie, right? I mean, I can't believe how dramatic. We're watching scenes of them dropping test kits on a cruise ship. Next year at this time, Stuart, let's make a deal. I want to see the guy that get out of the UPS truck and deliver the flu vaccine to the Minute Clinic at Walgreens, right? That's what we want to see, too, right? No. So it's getting to this hype point.
I hear somebody calling my name. Is that you, Steve?
It's Cortes, you know, regarding California. Can I make a political point on what's going on in California?
Yep.
You know, I find it fascinating watching this. And look, I feel terribly for these people who are on that ship. I'm sure some of them are very scared, so I'm not trying to make light of that situation. But I think it's fascinating that Governor Newsom suddenly believes in borders. This is a guy who has been a complete open borders critic of the president, who doesn't believe in national sovereignty. And look at this. A lot of citizens of the United States, a lot of residents of his state of California, he suddenly said, you know what? We've got a border that matters, and you are going to stay in that harbor until it's safe for you to come into our country. I find the irony there really fascinating.